Hey, everybody. Did you see that game last night? I'm talking about the NBA Finals, Game 4, New York Knicks versus the San Antonio Spurs. Now, going into this series, I thought the San Antonio Spurs were going to win it all. They were going to beat up on the Knicks, but a very different outcome is unfolding right before our eyes. And in Game 4, in case you missed it, what happened? The Spurs in the first half were playing great. They got up by as many as 29 points. But the rest of the game, they had to play, which they did not. And the New York Knicks came back. They fought steady. They just weathered the ups and downs of what was happening. And they ended up winning by 1 point at the very last second. And this is the greatest comeback that has happened in any NBA Finals game that has ever happened. And so with that, I was thinking, I was in shock, like everybody, irregardless of whether you're a Knicks fan or a Spurs fan, everybody was in shock around what was unfolding from the very beginning of the game all the way through to the very end. And after listening to the game, I took a step back and thought about, wow, what is the bigger meta point that is happening here? And I thought about it. And as a lot of you know, I try to do things in a holistic way. So heart, soul, mind, body, and others. And when I thought about what happened, I thought that there's a very big spiritual point or lesson that is happening before us right now. Now, as I get into the spiritual piece here, I'll share what I mean here in a second. You don't have to be religious or a Christian or practice a particular thing. I'm just sharing practices and things of what I do in my practices. So when it comes to spiritual intelligence or the spiritual domain, the way I think about it is it's the core essence of who you really are as a person. All your strengths, weaknesses, blind spots, all those things, talents, gifts, all those things that just make up the core essence of who you are. And being in touch with that in a mindset of not being judgmental, but just being in touch with all the dimensions of who you are. The other piece of that is having an awareness, respect, and acknowledgement for that which is greater and far beyond you and what is outside of your control. And then how do those two things interact with each other, especially when there's moments of tension, when the core essence of who you are is coming up against things that are outside of your control? And how do you navigate that? And so within that, that's my spiritual practice. And personal to me, I do follow the Bible, and I take a lot of readings from there. I also look at the Quran, even Torah. And so I try to glean a lot of ancient wisdom from those different things and apply it to my life. And so with this game, I thought about what was unfolding. And I thought about in the Bible, there's the story of Moses and Pharaoh. And a lot of you may be familiar with this story, especially with Pharaoh. He's the Egyptian king. He hardens his heart and he won't let, the Israelites go or be freed. And that eventually ends up being his end. And so I thought about that. And in relation to the Spurs, I'm like, are they like hardening their hearts? Because from a basketball strategic point of view, in my opinion, all they got to do is really focus on getting scoring in the paint or close-in shots. They have Wemby, who's an amazing player. He's 7'4" or 5 inches tall, and he's really, really good when he's close to the basket. He's also a very good shooter too, and the other teammates on their team are very good shooters as well. But that is not the priority skill that can support their strategy for winning. And that's what's unfolding right now. And so I thought about it in terms of what's going on with this team? Because the Spurs are one of the best teams in the NBA, but there's a very big contradiction that is unfolding, which is just driving all the headlines. They're a better team, but they're playing uncharacteristically in a strange way. And I thought about that in relation to my own life, and I invite you to think about it in your own life too. What contradictions are existing in your life to where you're a better player or a better person than how you're showing up, or you have a good strategy in mind, but you're not following it in a complete way, or you're doing it in an inconsistent way? And what are those outcomes that are happening there? And so that's the thing I thought about with the Spurs. But like going back to that Bible story with Moses and Pharaoh, I tried to look at it from Pharaoh's point of view. Because one thing, I know I can get into this trap, and you might as well. When you read the Bible or any spiritual text, and you look at the villains, quote unquote, or the antagonists in the Bible. So all the bad guys and bad girls in the Bible. So like Judas is a big one, the Sadducees and Pharisees, and in this case, Pharaoh. We can read these passages and look at it from, we have the benefit of hindsight. We all know how the story is going to end. And so it can be easy to sit back and look at Pharaoh and call him a knucklehead. Like, why don't you just soften your heart, do what you're supposed to do, and God will take care of you too. But I'm like, wait a minute. Let's look at the moment, because Pharaoh doesn't know how the story is going to end in the moment. All he knows is what he knows and what's driving him to harden his heart. And so in taking that idea, I applied it to the Spurs, especially in game 4 here, when they were playing so great in the first half. They were scoring in the paint, which opened up their perimeter shots. And that was the strategy that was unfolding, and it was working perfectly. But in the second half, they decided to essentially do the opposite, focus on perimeter shots, which limited their inside shots. Their scoring percentages went way down, which enabled an opportunity for the New York Knicks to come back and win. And so I'm thinking, okay, if I look at it from the Spurs' point of view, why were they going away or taking a different strategy than what was working before? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe fear was driving, them to quote unquote harden their hearts and change up their strategy. Maybe it was selfishness. Maybe it was something. What was going on in their heart, soul, minds, and bodies with how they were showing up for the rest of the game, which was dramatically different than how they started the game. And what's the life lesson in that? And so that's the piece that I wanted to invite all of you to think about. Where are areas in your life where, you're not showing up where in the best way that you could be? Or, the strategy you're trying to achieve and how you're executing it happening in two different ways, and you're getting mixed results or different outcomes. And what choices can you make to change that up? Now, at the same time, from the New York Knicks point of view, they played amazing. I got to give them a ton of credit for persevering, hard work, believing in yourself, believing in each other. There's a bunch of different life lessons in that. But kind of mapping that back to the Pharaoh, Moses, and the Spurs thing with what I just shared, I'm realizing that, when you harden your heart and strategies start to go sideways, that can open up opportunities for other people and other things. And like in this game, when the Spurs hardened their heart, that created opportunities for the Knicks to fight and claw and get their way back into it. And they were in position and ready to lean in and just chip away at it and just keep sticking with it. And before you know it, it's the last couple minutes in the game, and it's anybody's game. And in those situations there, I've been in those situations as a former player, when you were up, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but then it starts to fall apart, and now it's back to an even situation, the momentum that you lost can create moments of doubt and fear and hesitation, second guessing, just doing things that are uncharacteristic because the pressure and the moment is revealing who you really, really are. Conversely, with the Knicks, if you hang in there and you dig in and you persevere and all these things there, when it kind of gets back to anybody's game, it's revealing who you are, and you get that momentum of persevering and trying. And then it's on both sides, from the Knicks point of view, when you're back in that moment where you could capture the game, do you have enough perseverance, determination, gas in the tank to really get it over the top? Or if you were a Spurs player, all these things are happening, but you still have a chance to win the game too. Do you have enough cognitive ability, spiritual resilience to stop the bleeding, if you will, reset yourself, make some good decisions in the moment, and get it back? And so that's the life lesson that I thought about from what I just saw with this game. Again, it's a spiritual thought, but you don't have to go to church or be religious in order to take this. This is a life lesson that is common to the human experience. Contradictions, how that works, showing up, making decisions and choices that, hopefully align with what you're trying to do. And if they don't, rethinking and making new choices so that it can align. And so, as I say all this, recording this, before the rest of the series continues, I think that, from the Spurs point of view, they can still win the series, believe it or not. Tactically speaking, or basketball strategy wise, I think all they got to do is focus on the paint and then play out from there and not prioritize 3-point shots. The in the paint part of the close shots is the part of their strategy. If they prioritize that, a lot of other things will just fall in place. They have, 3 more chances to win 3 games. And so there is no more margin for error for them. Now, New York Knicks side, they have 3 chances to win 1 game. And so definitely the odds and momentum are in their favor, and so the thing with the Knicks is, can they bounce back from a win, because there was definitely an emotional high. And now, the series isn't over, can they, finish it off? And so that's where, the story continues, and we'll see what happens. So that's my take on the game. Curious about what you think, what happened with the game.